said it's overpriced and they felt it was on Alibaba.
What is $1,000 divided by 8?
Kenya needs to go where the rabbit went to.
I don't have a fake butt.
That knockoff star is probably going to end up on She by Sheree website for $150 next week.
And see.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Revel channel. I am ready to revel about Real Housewives of Atlanta season 15 episode 9 and 11. Well, 9 through 11. Y'all, my feet is falling asleep. Like, I was sitting crisscross and I was like, oh my goodness. So like, I'm feeling this feeling in my foot and it's very uncomfortable. But comment down below and let me know if you like the new sound. I am trying a new strategy and have a new scenery set up, so hopefully it doesn't have too much of an echo. And at the same time, I'm still gonna follow the same strategy that I did last review, where I'm gonna group episode 9 and 11 together, talk about what really stood out so that we're not here for a long time, and then we will be up to date on everything that's going on with Real Housewives of Atlanta. And also be on the lookout because I already created the video to talk about the confessional looks, but after watching some of the episodes I was like, oh, we have new ones, so I scrapped it because I'm like, if we're gonna talk about it, we gotta talk about it all. So I am actually gonna remake that after making this video as well. I am sitting on content when I'm talking about David's Bridal when it comes to fashion, talking about the Stellar Awards, and basically how they don't really have that much of that push. That's the word I want to find, I guess. Push like all the other award shows, because when I say when it comes to finding pictures and different things like that and designers, who they're wearing, that is very like slim to none when you're trying to find that information and images. And I just want to talk about like, why is that even a thing? Because we get everything else for all the other award shows, but Real Housewives of Atlanta, I want to try something a little different. And instead of talking about the friend ofs like Courtney, because ma'am, episode 11 really had me looking at you like, what? But I want to start off with Sanya. And I want to start off with her because we literally just learned her and her husband are expecting their bundle of joy. And I was like, y'all, that is a blessing. That's the stuff we want to see. And at the same time, I felt like that is something that's great for her family because we know they both desire it. And I also want to talk about her first because it kind of leads into the mommination charity brunch. Now, this event, I feel like the event, the way it was set up, was definitely executed really well. The show of how everything went throughout, you know, we only get certain clips. I think that went well. There weren't really any issues that could be seen amongst everybody that kind of had us like, whoa, not at this type of event. And it also shows us how like, it's an ode to the earlier seasons. Like, remember how they used to have charity events, hanging out with friends, good vibes, drama here and there, but not too much. That's what we want to see. We want to see the charity events. We want to see you prosperous. We want to see you doing amazing things, and also see the hiccups and different things you have going on in your life, but just not just drama driven. And I feel like that's what this event gave me. When we're talking about drama and different things like that, the slight hiccups right before the event. Sanya and her sister. Her sister feels like Sanya is very inconsiderate of her time and what she has going on. Now, nobody wants to go through that because it's like, how dare you treat me in this way, or like basically not be considerate of what I have going on in my life. But we can't sit here and act like, hello, this is what you signed up for. Sanya is considered a celebrity. They have hectic schedules. Now, I'm not making an excuse for celebrities because that does not give them the right to treat people the way they treat them and not be considerate, but different things like that comes with that type of job as well. But at the same time, I also felt like the sister not staying at the event, because Sanya did say her sister did not come to the event. And please, charge it to my head, not my heart. I am going off of what I remember. I just jotted down like some quick little notes, like, hey, touch on this, and that. But I felt like her sister should have definitely stayed at the event, because no matter what, support each other. That's your sister. And at the same time, mommination is literally her. Mommination is for like-minded individuals who are all mothers to come together and basically support each other. So I feel like her sister could have been there as well. And let me know if I missed something on that, because I do not have kids, but that's the gist of what I got when it comes to mommination and different things like that. It's to encourage each other. So I feel like her sister could have been encouraged in that moment, and Sanya could have been encouraged, and then they could have went home and talked about the issues later on. Kenya before the event even started, let her know that, you know, she's running a little late. She's trying to do her hair, she's trying to do this stuff. And Kenya loves to get on people when they're late and they are not like holding up their end when it comes to being on time and, you know, just for her time's sake or whatever. But it's like, ma'am, how dare you? Is that a car? Yes, it is. I don't know if you're gonna hear it, but hopefully it's not as bad as it used to be in other videos as I have the new setup. But at the same time, it's like, Kenya, how dare you? Because you showed up late. I remember seeing this some months back, like last year or whatever, and I was like, what Kenya got going on? So to watch the episode and see that she was running late when you're supposed to be the co-host and so forth, and then you show up dressed like this, how is that possible? I expected you to step out compared to what everybody else was really giving if you're gonna be late. But also, something that I actually love seeing. Now, I am not gonna lie, I didn't expect the awards. I do like the fact that they did the awards. It's kind of old to like the ESPYs and different award shows and giving it a title and stuff like that. I did not expect for the person to get the award to be Sheree. I thought it was going to be somebody else the way they had it set up and so forth. So to see her son walk out, I was like, oh, that is so sweet, because we definitely watched him grow up on the show and we kind of see who he's becoming now. And we can say a lot about Sheree. Sheree does a lot of things, but the way she raised her children up and we're able to see the type of connection they have, I feel like that is something great, so she deserves. Now, earlier I kind of spoke on how I felt like this episode was an ode to like earlier seasons when we're talking about the feels of what it gave. That kind of leads into me wanting to talk about the OG sit down, because all the OGs showed up except for, of course, Nene. Now, all the women, I don't know, comment down below, let me know if they all really still talk to Nene. I believe Sheree doesn't, but I don't know the relationship status when it comes to all the other women. But I will say, I did think it was really good seeing Deshawn, because I did not know that she got a divorce until about a couple of years ago after, you know, all that had happened. And I was like, man, she could have came back and basically showed us her like thriving and everything, her prospering after all the stuff that she went through, or just to take us through those like scenes in that time and then just seeing her to where she is now. I wonder why she didn't come back. I really wonder why she didn't come back. And then with Lisa gave me Lisa that we got from like season 14, where when she had that sit down with Sanya and we were like, girl, what are you doing? This is a little too much. That's what that was giving me here, because she was living in her glory days and we were like, please just chill out a little bit. I don't know, that was me. That's what I was thinking. And then with Kim, of course, Kim was being Kim, and she kind of came at Kenya, and Kenya wasn't even there, but she kind of came at Kenya and it was like, ma'am, leave that in the older season, because at the same time, you brought that up about your daughter. And since we're gonna talk about people bringing things up, let's talk about the brunch at Drew's house. Ralph put this event together to basically feel like, you know, I'm father of the year, I'm daddy of the year. And we're like, sir, why do people want to pat on their back for things that they're supposed to do? Like, that's your job. Like, that you're supposed to be husband of the year, father of the year. But at the same time, we can't act like we don't see what's going on social media, what's been going on the show. Are you really dad and father of the year? I don't know, but at the same time, it's like, it's weird you want that accolade when that's your job. But either way, he puts the event together and everybody show up with their significant other except for Kenya and Sheree. Now, Kenya says her man was out of town working. We don't know where Martell was. And then we finally learned that Marlo and Kenya, they have the same taste in men. They went on the same date with her current guy, and I can't remember his name right now, so I'm not even gonna make up a name. I feel like that'd be so disrespectful, making up a name, and that's not even what his name is. But we find out that Marlo went on a date with him. Now, in the beginning, I felt like maybe Marlo said it just to say it, but we all know it has a malicious intent behind it, because then she goes and pulls up the DMs the same way Kenya did. Now, in that moment, was I upset that she pulled up the DMs? No, because she just proved that, yes, we did have communication, just in case somebody tried to say we didn't, because we seen Kenya do that in episode 1. Now, they were trying to say later on in the episode that, you know, you seen Kenya get up, she ain't really want that smoke type of thing. And they didn't really say it like that, but I'm putting my own little spin on it like that right there. But at the same time, it was kind of like, no, she did what Sheree should have did. Just got up and walked off, as in like, girl, I'm not hearing that. I know this information already. That's basically what Kenya told Kandi later on in episode, that was episode 10 or 11. I believe it was 10, where she lets her know like, girl, I knew this stuff already. But in that same sit down, we see Sheree brings up the lawsuit when it comes to the show with Drew. I was like, Sheree got some nerve, because ma'am, you allegedly don't pay people either. Now we see later on Drew is gonna say that, no, we paid her already, it's more to this, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna talk about that a little later. Now in that scene, I can't say, Drew, you can't be upset that she brought it up, because you did bring up the fact that she didn't pay the assistant last season. So what did you expect? But at the same time, Sheree, don't try to make it seem like you were concerned, because you really wasn't. We also see Courtney and Kenya have their back and forth, where it's like, it starts off like a little playful with them, you know, having a little conversation. I can't remember the exact conversation, but it kind of turns into where Courtney's hands was a little like, you doing too much. So I did understand Kenya basically being like, boundaries, girl, keep your hands to yourself. And she didn't understand what was going on in that moment, but even Drew had to say like, hey, keep your hands to yourself. Boundaries. If she said that's her boundaries, leave it there. Now, I only say that because later on in the episode, when the women finally like makes it to Portugal, that's gonna come up later as well. So when the women finally makes it to Portugal, the hotel, I believe they stayed at the W, and I was like, this W is nice, because the one that's in downtown Atlanta had me all the way messed up. Like, that kind of ruined my trip. So the fact that these women were staying in one of the nicer W's, I was like, man, I should definitely travel and go overseas to experience some stuff. Even down to when they got to the farmer's market, not even a farm, why I said the farmer's market. It's just one of those fresh markets where you get your food. I feel like that was good seeing that on the trip, because we don't see that a lot here. We get farmers markets, but now where you can go get your fish and all that, how they do overseas, that's something different. And I feel like that's what food is really supposed to look like, because that's a whole nother conversation with the food and everything that's going on this side of the world. When they finally made it to Portugal, we have Drew and Mayetta having a conversation. You have Kandi and Kenya, and then you have Marlo and Sanya. I was about to say Sheree. Now, I want to start off with Drew and Mayetta, because we do learn that, and listen, I can't remember the correct term, but Mayetta gives back, okay? She gives back in Africa. She has, I believe it's like not a home, but it's something that she does for the kids. And I feel like the fact that she's able to support that, and just, we want to see that on the show. That's what we want to see. We want to see you give back. We want to see the charities. That's what we want to see. And we see her basically tell Drew, like, if you look over, actually on the other side, that's Africa. And we see Drew basically say, I have never been to Africa. I've only been to South Africa. And I know y'all can't see me right now, but me and my fiance looked at each other like, girl, what? We need a geography lesson, because Drew, why is that not clicking? Why is that not clicking in that moment? Now, Kenya having a conversation with Kandi. Y'all, I'm tired of hearing about this divorce. She feels like they have been married I said it wrong. She feels like they have been divorcing longer than they've been married, and that's really what we're getting on it. Like, we need something a little more, Kenya. I don't need that anymore for any other seasons, the rest of this season. Until the divorce is final, I really don't want to hear that much about that. But we did see her in that same scene also talk about her relationship with Rhoa. Is that the man's name? I believe it is Rhoa. I don't want to mess it up. But the guy that she's dating now, we see her talking about the relationship with him, and how she already knew that at one point he was talking to Marlo, but now he knows what he really likes, which is her. And it really wasn't really them dating. They went on one date, and we see Sanya having a conversation with Marlo. Now, in this scene, I found it a little funny, because we see Sanya basically say all the time, I don't talk about you as in Kenya and Kandi to Marlo and Sheree, and clearly she does. Like, ma'am, you contradicted yourself in this moment. You definitely do that. And they were bringing up the fact that Kenya didn't want to hear what Marlo had to say, because, you know, they got the same taste in men. Like, how ironic is that? And then it's kind of like, they also bring up the fact that she didn't want to sit there at the table, like how she just got up and left. And I was like, she did what Sheree should have done. I keep bringing it up. It's the same thing. It's not that much of a difference. And I want to finish off the review talking about the two dinners, and then bringing up, once again, old news. Now, we all know in Housewives, the dinner is where everything is just spilled and so much is going on. But we see them have conversations. Now, Courtney brings up the fact that her and Kenya kind of don't really get off on good terms, and how Kenya feels like, and she didn't bring it up, I believe it was Sheree that brought it up, but she basically lets them know that, you know, Kenya feels like she doesn't know much about her, and Courtney feels like she gets mean girl energy from Kenya. Now, we cannot act like Kenya does not have mean girl energy, but ma'am, I don't think it's mean girl energy if you can't keep your hands to yourself. That's what that was really stemming from in that moment. And at the same time, you did come at her friend crazy on episode 1. We were just meeting her, and we see Kenya talk, and she basically is like, you know what, I do want to say, Drew, I do thank you for standing up for me in that moment, and basically saying it's not mean girl, she's just telling you this is her boundary. And Drew goes into it a little more, where she's like, you know, different people have different boundaries. If they don't like that, then just don't do it, and that's how you can basically have a better relationship with people. And she even brings up that we have to just know the person, and that's the biggest issue. A lot of people don't know the person, so now that's causing other problems. Like she brought up Kandi and like how Kandi has facial expressions, and it doesn't always mean that it's something. It's just that's her facial expressions, and she just wears it on her face, or she could just be making a face and nothing's really going on. That is a real thing, because I see that all the time in my family, and I have to raise my hand in that moment because that is me sometimes. My facials, they're not always the best. They even get on the topic of Sheree and Drew. Now, we already know that Drew and Sheree hashed out their issues. It shouldn't be much of an issue if she already apologized for saying that, hey, you took back the She by Sheree stuff, which is true. Multiple people on the cast said it, and they said it again in this episode. We see even Sheree's friend Sanya say it, and she brings it up, and I'm like, come on, Sanya, tell the truth. Shame the devil. Ma'am, you did not let them keep that stuff. Why are you trying to hold this up and make it a bigger issue and make that the reason for why you told Courtney other things about Drew? Because that's Drew's issue here now. You're still talking about me after we hashed out that issue, and Sheree keeps bringing up old news. Now, this is something that's very common with a lot of people. Instead of owning up to what they did in that moment, they'll just bring up old stuff, and it's like, hey, didn't we get over that? Why is this still coming up in this moment, and what does that really have to do with it? Now, when I first seen this, I felt like Drew got up from the table and left because she's tired of explaining herself. And I feel like she's tired of explaining herself because it seems like every time she turns around, people are coming, like she's getting into it with people, but the people have other stuff to say, and I feel like they see her as like a weaker link for some reason. Like, is that just me? I thought that's why she got up from the table. And we see Kandi say,
And scene.
and I was like, Kandi, that's supposed to be your friend. How you do that? But if you watch Kandi speak on it, listen, I ought to do the speak on it and sing it, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to myself because I like the intro on her speak on it. But we see Kandi say and speak on it that production stops the scene. And they're like, y'all not really talking about nothing. And then she says that that's when everything picks back up and Drew begins acting. So she was acting in that moment. It becomes more apparent when we get to episode 11 because it picks up at that same scene. And when everybody goes outside to check on her, she was like, no, I don't want to talk about it because Sheree, I was really trying to just be there and have this conversation. And she's doing a lot just for us to learn that the issue isn't the fact that she's bringing up the lawsuit or talking about her to Courtney. The issue is really the fact that her husband is in Las Vegas. I was like, Drew, why you just didn't say that?
Check on Ralph. He's in Vegas, so still check on Ralph.
Oh, is he in Vegas?
on a work trip.
On a work
You definitely check on him all day.
in Vegas. Are you worried about him in Vegas?
Like, I guess you don't want to tell people certain things because, you know, they do make her the butt of jokes for other stuff, but at the same time, don't try to make it seem like it's something else when it's not. And we see in this scene where, because everybody don't know that the real issue, because she brought it up in the confessional, they don't know the real issue is the fact that her husband is in Las Vegas doing who knows what, because we all remember on her first season, he went to Tampa. We still don't know what he was in there for. But we see Kenya basically say,
Hey, can I just say one thing? How many of us are on this trip right now?
8.
8. What is $1,000 divided by 8? Do broke get lawsuits? Broke split checks. In this case, yes, if it's going to make Drew's stress go away.
I thought that was funny because we all remember their sit down when they were trying to say broke people split checks type of thing or whatever. But she was trying to make light of that moment. I was like, Kenya, not right now. But it was funny. And she has to let them know that, no, we've already paid her. It's something else that's going on. And that's kind of like how we learned that, no, the real issue is her husband. After all that, they make it back to the table. They're supposed to be on okay grounds. And we see later that the women, they wake up the next morning and I believe they were going to the market. Once again, just within the span of 3 episodes, Kenya is late again. She's literally late holding everybody up, but when she finally makes it, she slips and she falls. Now, we know that Kenya is up there in age, so when they fall, different things can hurt. And whenever that happened, I was like, ooh, like you could tell that was a real fall. Like I would have definitely went to the doctor the same way she did. But in that scene, we see Courtney, and this is why I say, Courtney, you gonna make me take back what I said. My last review, because ma'am, I was like, you know what? She's making a turn for the better, y'all. I know y'all didn't like her in the beginning, but here she is. She's okay, she's vibing, she's working within the group, and then she goes to make a comment.
The universe has a strange way of forcing things sometimes when it's necessary. Get it? Guys, you don't believe that? It's a thing called karma that I believe in, and I'm just what?
Do you think for following is
I didn't
karma?
say that.
No, I'm
I
asking.
believe in karma. I don't know. I'm not God.
Was that just like a stretcher? Is that a medical person? Just
Something dramatic. We need to clear the negative energy out, right? That's why things like this happen.
Oh Lord.
I think that we all deal with karma. She is a mean girl. That's how karma works, right?
If that's what you really think, if something was to happen to you, should we sit there and say it's because you did da 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 da? Like, that was very distasteful in that moment. And at the same time, I feel like Drew, you could have spoke up a little more. But they go to the hospital, and Kenya and Kandi, because Kandi went with her, they were in there all day. Y'all know how hospitals is. Like, I remember being a kid and I had to go to the hospital because, like, you know, of course I've always been short. I'm 4'11", and people tell me all the time, no, you can't do that. And I remember riding a bike, and you can't tell me what to do. Hit a curb, hit my mouth on open metal, all that's open or whatever. I feel like that's too much. Sorry, I'm just trying to explain it. But when I tell y'all, when my mama took me to the hospital, we were sitting in there for hours, and I'm like, bro, I'm bleeding out of my face. Like, everything's open. Like, hello? I don't know why it takes forever to be seen in a hospital. So I guess it doesn't matter if you're like America or if you're overseas. Baby, you're gonna be waiting. And while they're waiting, the women go to the market. They get the food for the next dinner. And remember, I told y'all that market looks really nice. And then we see them have a sit down, and I think they were having lunch or something like that. And they basically say that we're having a great time because Kandi and Kenya aren't here to stir up the drama. And I was like, Marlo, that's you. That's not them. Like, you been coming at Kandi. Kandi didn't do nothing to you in that moment. And at the same time, now, yes, Kenya, sometimes it be you too, but I don't think it's really them. It's like, no, Marlo, you just don't have anyone to pick on in that moment, so that's why it's like that. And then we finally get to where the women make it all back to the house. Everybody, including Kenya and Kandi, bringing up old stuff. I am so... Y'all remember that season we was all tired? I think that was season 13. We was tired of hearing about Bolo. Leave Bolo in season 13. But we know Bolo comes up because, before I get there, at that dinner, before everybody come together, the second one, we see, or whatever lunch they were having, where basically Marlo tried to say, oh, we're having a good time because Kenya and Kandi ain't here. We see them tell Drew that Kandi said and seen, okay? I bring that up because it kind of leads into this right now. Drew brings that up to Kandi. Now, when she was sitting with the women, she made it seem like it was really nothing, probably misunderstanding, whatever. She has the conversation with Kandi, and Kandi immediately was like, yep, I said it. And I was like, you know what? I like that. You at least owned it. You owned it. Because we know there's some people that be like, nah, that wasn't me. Who said that? Like, I remember that. But they do that all the time. She's like, no, that was me. I definitely said it because I feel like you were acting in that moment. They get over it. Later on, they bring up the Bolo stuff. This is when all the cameras down, and I believe Kandi said that it was Drew and maybe Mayetta. No, it was Mayetta and Marlo that had the footage, so that's how they got that. And they bring up Bolo because they were talking about the night that everything happened, and apparently Drew and I can't remember that girl name. LaToya. Y'all had to pause my mic and everything to for my recording so that I can look her name up. LaToya. Because apparently Drew and LaToya kissed on season 13. Now, Drew said that didn't happen, and you know how Kandi is. Kandi, you ain't gonna call Kandi a liar and make her feel like she ain't seen what she's seen. Now, we also see Marlo, because of course, production asked Marlo in the confessional.
80% I did see them kiss.
What's the other 20%?
I don't know what the hell. Drew got me confused, the way she lied, act. I don't know. Drew got me believing her.
I believe Drew did. And I only say this because the background that she comes from, we're not supposed to do that and so forth when you're Christian. Okay, I get it. I'm a Christian. You're not supposed to do stuff like that. But at the same time, Drew, you can't sit here and lie and try to call other people a liar. Just speak your truth. And then we even see Kandi basically say that Drew may not want her husband to know. Also because of the type of background she comes from, because she grew up in church. So if that's what it really is, I mean, you could have said something else, but don't try to call Kandi a liar, because now you're gonna expect them not to bring up the fact that that really happened, because it's like, ma'am, you're not gonna call me a liar and make people think that I be lying. And I don't recall Kandi lying on the show. It ain't just me. that I know I'm not the only one who just thinks that. I don't recall Kandi lying at all. I can't say that she's a liar, so I believe she really did it. I just think that because of Drew's background and being a Christian, she doesn't want that to come out. I think that's what it really is. We're going to see how that plays out, because in the beginning when they were showing the clips of, oh, Drew may have stepped out, Drew may have did this and different things like that, I was thinking it was something else going on. I was like, let me find out it's really from the movie and y'all made this up, because I was going to be like, I'm really done. Ain't no way y'all making this stuff up. I think that leads up to everything else that's going to be showing on the show within her and her husband's marriage. So we're going to see how all that plays out. Let me know what you think of my review, and I will be back really, really soon to talk about the they dropped some looks. I seen some of the reunion looks. I want to discuss that and the seating chart and stuff like that too. So I have a lot of videos I'm about to work on tonight, and just let me know what y'all think, and I'll see y'all next time.